My name is Charlie Elizabeth Harper. I'm 37 years old, a tenured associate professor of economics at Weston University, a sprawling campus just outside the city. I've been told I'm attractive, blonde hair that falls just past my shoulders, clear blue eyes, the kind of fair skin that burns too easily in the sun. I dress conservatively for work. Pencil skirts, silk blouses, low heels. My students sometimes call me Professor Pretty Eyes behind my back. I pretend I don't hear why life is quiet, almost monastic. I live alone in a small book-lined apartment 10 minutes from campus. My evenings are spent correcting papers, preparing lectures, or curled up with a novel and a glass of red wine. I have a handful of close friends, mostly other faculty, but no one special. I haven't been on a real date in 3 years. Sometimes, in the silence of my apartment, the loneliness creeps in like fog under the door. This semester everything felt heavier than usual. And then Mike walked into my intermediate macroeconomics class. Mike Brennan, 19, transfer student. Dark, slightly unruly hair, green-brown eyes, and a smile that could power a small city. He took the seat in the second row, left side, always the same chair. He was sharp, frighteningly sharp for a sophomore. He asked questions that made even my graduate students rarely thought of. But it wasn't just his mind that unsettled me. It was the way he looked at me. Not the polite, attentive gaze of a good student. This was slower, warmer, lingering. When I turned from the whiteboard, I'd catch him watching me with an intensity that made my pulse stumble. I started wearing cardigans even when the lecture hall was warm. After class, he began to linger. At first, it was harmless. Professor Harper, could you explain the ISLM model one more time? Of course I could. I loved teaching. But week after week, the questions grew fewer and the compliments grew bolder. You have the clearest way of explaining opportunity cost I've ever heard. You look especially nice today, Professor. That shade of blue really suits you. Each time my cheeks burned. Each time I forced my voice to stay cool and professional. Mike, do you have a question about the class material? I drew the line again and again. I reminded myself, and occasionally him, that I was his professor, nearly twice his age, and that the university's code of conduct was crystal clear. Faculty-student relationships were forbidden. Full stop. But God help me, a tiny traitorous part of me felt seen, desired, alive in a way I hadn't in years. By the time finals week approached, I was exhausted, emotionally and physically. I needed escape. I booked the first decent-looking solo trip I could find. 10 days on Isla de la Luna, a tiny Caribbean island barely a dot on the map. White sand, turquoise water, no Wi-Fi in the bungalows. Perfect. I told myself I would read 12 books, swim every morning, sleep 10 hours a night, and come home renewed. I would not think about Mike Brennan once. The first 2 days were paradise. I lay under palm fronds, listened to waves, and felt the knot in my chest slowly loosened. On the third evening, I wandered to the little beach bar at sunset. I wore a simple white sundress, hair loose for once, barefoot in the sand. I ordered a piña colada and watched the sky turn rose gold. And then I heard my name. Professor Charlie? My heart stopped. I turned. There he was. Mike. In board shorts and a faded t-shirt, hair salted from the ocean, that same devastating smile. What, how? I couldn't form a sentence. He laughed, delighted. I'm here with some buddies for spring break. This is insane. Of all the islands in the world, his friends, 3 loud, tanned fraternity types, waved from a table nearby. Mike asked if he could join me. I should have said no. Instead, I heard myself say, just 1 drink. 1 became 2. Then 3. Then 4. We didn't talk about economics. We talked about everything else. He told me about growing up in a chaotic house with 4 brothers, about wanting to start a fintech company one day, about how he secretly loved old jazz. I found myself telling him things I hadn't told anyone. How I'd wanted children once but the years slipped away, How teaching was the great love of my life but sometimes felt like a beautiful cage. The bar closed. His friend stumbled off. We walked along the water's edge. The moon was enormous, laying a silver path across the sea. He took my hand. His fingers laced through mine like they belonged there. My heart hammered so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Charlie," he said quietly, stopping. "You're so different here. Free. You're radiant." I laughed, shaky. "Mike, we can't." But he was already leaning in. The kiss was soft at first, almost tentative, then deeper, hungrier. Salt and rum and something electric. My mind screamed stop, but my body pressed closer. Years of restraint dissolved in the warm night air. We ended up in his hotel room. Small, cluttered with his friends' things, the faint smell of sunscreen and beer. Clothes fell away like inhibitions. We moved together with the frantic urgency of people who know they're doing something forbidden. It was tender and wild and overwhelming. I fell asleep with his arm heavy across my waist, thinking, this is the most alive I felt in a decade. Morning came too soon. Sunlight sliced through the blinds. My mouth tasted like regret and coconut rum. Mike woke smiling, brushing hair from my face. "Good morning, beautiful." Reality slammed into me. I sat up, clutching the sheet. "Mike, last night was, but we're back to reality soon. When we're home, this never happened. It can't happen again." His face fell, but he nodded slowly. Then quieter. "I really like you, Charlie. A lot. Could we maybe keep seeing each other?" Secretly. My heart and my conscience warred. Against every shred of judgment I possessed, I whispered, "We'd have to be incredibly careful." The rest of the holiday passed in a blur of stolen glances across the beach, one more night together, and the growing terror of what we'd done. Back on campus, everything changed. Mike took a seat in the very back row. He never looked up, never stayed after class. When I texted, "Are you okay?" he left me on read. Days turned into a week. I walked around campus feeling hollow, second-guessing every moment on the island. Then came the afternoon that broke me. I was cutting past the student union when I heard his laugh, loud, cocky, unmistakable. I froze behind a pillar point, one of his friends. "So did you actually bang Professor Pretty Eyes on spring break, or what?" Mike's voice, smug and triumphant. "Told you guys it was easy money. $100 each. Couple drinks on the beach and she was practically begging for it. Easiest Benjamin I ever made." Laughter erupted. Someone slapped him on the back. Legend. My knees nearly gave out. The sand, the moon, the whispered confessions, every second of it had been a calculated performance. A bet. A story to tell over beers for the rest of his college life. That I walked away before they saw me. I didn't cry until I was locked in my office with the blinds drawn. That I felt ancient. Stupid. Disgusting. Used in the cruelest possible way. The semester isn't over yet. I still have to stand in front of that lecture hall 3 times a week and pretend I'm unaffected while he sits in the back row scrolling on his phone. But every time I write on the board, I remember his fingers tracing down my spine under Caribbean moonlight. And every time I remember that, I hate myself a little more.